There are moments in life when you hear something that wasn't spoken out loud, a sentence that slides across your mind like a shadow passing over a window. Sometimes it sounds like memory. Sometimes it sounds like your own voice. And sometimes it feels like it comes from nowhere at all. But you never question it because it's familiar. It fits the wounds you carry. It fits the patterns you've lived. It fits the pain you never talk about. So you accept it. You repeat it. You wear it. You begin to respond to it. And over time, that unspoken sentence becomes something far more dangerous, a name. Not the name on your birth certificate, not the one your parents gave you, not the one you introduce yourself with. I'm talking about the other one, the silent one, the one that echoes in the back room of your mind when you're alone and tired and empty. The one that tells you who you are in the dark. A name that did not come from God. A name you never chose. A name that has been following you for years. Most people don't even realize they've been answering to it, but the spiritual realm does. And everything that has been attacking you, everything that has been draining you, everything that keeps circling your life again and again, didn't respond to your real name. It responded to the shadow one. And tonight, we're going to uncover it. We're going to expose the hidden identity the enemy has been using to control your life. Welcome to episode 9, The Shadow Names, the hidden identity controlling your life. Before we even begin, you need to understand something simple and terrifying. Not every name is spoken. Some names are felt. Some names are learned through pain. And some names are assigned in the places where your identity was weakest. A shadow name is the identity the enemy hopes you'll answer to. It isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It doesn't scream in your face. It grows quietly in the same places where your voice died. A shadow name is born when you experience something your soul didn't know how to survive. And instead of healing, you absorbed it. A moment of rejection becomes unwanted. A moment of failure becomes not enough. A moment of loneliness becomes unlovable. And over time, these aren't feelings anymore. They become identities. You start making decisions based on a version of you that God never created. And here's the part that most people never notice. You don't have to hear the name for it to control you. You only have to respond to it. Every time you shrink back, every time you stay silent when you should speak, every time you assume you'll be rejected, every time you choose the path that hurts you because that's the one you think you deserve, you are answering the shadow name. And demons, they don't create that name. They observe it. They study the moments when your soul flinches. They track the memories you can't shake. They listen to the fears you never say out loud. Not to read your mind. They can't. But to read your orientation. The direction of your belief about yourself. Because in the spiritual realm, identity is not a description. Identity is a doorway. And the name you believe about yourself, even silently, determines which kingdom can reach you. Hell does not attack your personality, it attacks your identity. Because if it can rename you, it can redirect you. A shadow name is the invisible leash that pulls your life toward the wrong battles, the wrong relationships, the wrong choices, the wrong future. It's subtle, it's quiet, and most people never realize they're living under one. But tonight, the hidden identity that has followed you for years is about to be exposed. We're going deeper. Before a demon ever touches a life, before fear leaves its first fingerprint, something else happens quietly, invisibly. A beginning, a recognition, a moment where darkness learns your name. Not the name written on your passport or whispered by people who care about you. I'm talking about the name your soul gives off, the one that reveals what you fear, what you hunger for, and what you try to hide even from yourself. Most people don't know this, but identity echoes. Every thought, every wound, every lie we've believed sends out a kind of signal. Not loud, but specific. And in the unseen world, signals are everything. There's a moment, and it usually isn't dramatic. It might happen on a normal Tuesday morning. You're going about your life, doing what everyone does, pretending you're okay. But inside, something collapses, maybe a betrayal, maybe a secret you never dealt with, maybe a fear that keeps repeating the same sentence inside your mind. And in that collapse, something notices. If chapter 1 showed you the hum beneath the noise, the atmosphere demons move through, then this chapter reveals the instant when the hum turns into a thread, and the thread ties itself to a person. It rarely begins with sin. People assume evil waits for someone to do something wrong, but the truth is softer and sadder. It begins with pain. Pain makes a sound in the spiritual world, a frequency, a tremor. And when it isn't brought to God, when it stays buried, tightened, compressed, it changes tone, it attracts. Demons don't appear out of nowhere. They follow fractures. Fractures in identity, fractures in purpose, fractures in the stories we tell ourselves. Think about it. A cracked glass doesn't shatter because it was hit hard. It shatters because the crack was already there. In the same way, a person isn't overwhelmed because darkness is strong. They're overwhelmed because something inside them stayed unattended for too long. And here's where shadow names are born. When a wound is ignored, it starts to shape the way you see yourself. It forms a shadow version of your identity. Unwanted, unseen, alone, not enough. These aren't just thoughts, they're titles. They become spiritual signatures. And demons aren't drawn to the person, they're drawn to the signature. They read it the way a hunter reads tracks in snow, not by sight, but by imprint, by direction, by weakness, by where you stepped when you were tired. Some people walk through years with a shadow name they never chose, a name created by trauma, carried by memory, fed by fear, and they wonder why certain patterns repeat, why the same kind of relationship wounds them again. Why the same fear returns with new faces. Why the same destructive thoughts circle like vultures. It's not randomness. Patterns reveal targeting. Targeting reveals recognition. A demon does not attack everyone in the same way. It studies the parts of you that feel unfinished. It presses where confidence is thin. It whispers in the language of your wounds, not your strengths. But this is where the story shifts. Because a shadow name can be unlearned. That's the part demons cannot stand. The moment a person realizes, wait, this isn't me. This never was me. When someone finally recognizes that the identity they've been carrying was born in darkness, not in truth, the thread begins to snap. You can see it in people who find their real voice again. They stand a little differently, they breathe differently. Their eyes settle, as if something inside them has finally stopped shaking. Because here's something demons fear more than anything: a person who knows who they are. Not in a proud way, not in a loud way, but in a steady way. The kind of steadiness that comes from God, not from emotion. This chapter exists for one reason: to show you that most demonic influence doesn't begin with possession or rituals or anything theatrical. It begins with a crack in identity, and identity can be healed. When God gives someone a name, it is not fragile. It doesn't echo with fear. It doesn't tremble in the dark. It stands. Some people think deliverance is loud, dramatic. But the greatest deliverance is silent. The moment a person remembers who they really are, and darkness realizes it no longer has permission to speak. Because when the true name awakens, the shadow name dies, and the thing that once followed you loses its trail. There's a reason a shadow name feels heavier than a thought, sharper than a memory, and harder to escape than a habit. It wasn't born in a moment. It was constructed. Not like a nickname, not like an insult you heard once. A shadow name is a structure, a design, a spiritual architecture built quietly, brick by brick, until you don't even remember when it started. And by the time you hear it clearly, it already feels like it belongs to you. Every shadow name begins subtly, not with the dramatic attack, not with the supernatural event. It begins when something inside you softens, not in a comforting way, but in a vulnerable way. A moment where you are stripped open by disappointment or blindsided by humiliation, or pierced by a single sentence that entered deeper than it had any right to go. And in that moment, the enemy doesn't speak a word. He simply sketches a blueprint, a quiet impression, a shift in identity so slight you don't even notice it. A suggestion that doesn't sound like a suggestion. It sounds like, this is just who you are now. But a shadow name cannot exist without your cooperation, not your willingness, not your desire, just your silence. Because silence is not neutral. Silence is agreement without language. When a lie about your identity enters your life and you leave it unchallenged, it begins to build slowly, quietly, patiently. You don't adopt the name all at once. It grows around you like scaffolding. Like a cage you assume is just part of the room, and by the time you realize it, you have already shaped your choices around it. You walk differently, you speak differently, you expect less from life because the name taught you to, not loudly, not aggressively, but consistently. Once the frame is built, the enemy strengthens it with something far more dangerous. Echo. Not a voice, not a whisper. Echo. Because an echo doesn't sound foreign. It sounds familiar. It sounds like you. That is the genius of the shadow name. It doesn't force its way in. It waits until your own thoughts begin repeating it. And once your internal world begins to agree, the structure becomes self-maintaining. A shadow name becomes a belief. A belief becomes a filter. A filter becomes a worldview. And suddenly every situation, every failure, every disappointment feels like proof. Proof of the name you never consciously accepted, yet carry like a second skin. A finished shadow name doesn't feel like a lie, it feels like identity. You don't question it anymore. You operate from it. It shapes how you pray, how you love, how you trust, how you fight, how you shrink. And the tragedy is this. Most people never hear their shadow name clearly. They only live according to it. It becomes the silent architect behind every choice, the invisible puppeteer behind every fear, the unspoken rule in every relationship. And the enemy doesn't need to attack you anymore, because you're already walking in the direction he designed. Yet here's the part no demon wants you to learn. Shadow names, no matter how old or how reinforced, are built on a foundation that can be shattered in a moment. Not by positive thinking, not by discipline, not by pretending to feel stronger, but by revelation. Because the moment you see the shadow name for what it truly is, a construction, not a truth, the architecture begins to split. Lies only survive in darkness. Identity survives anywhere. Expose the shadow name, and the structure loses its power. And suddenly the cage that felt welded shut is just a frame without foundation, a door without a lock, a wall made of fog, and you walk forward, not because the name is gone, but because it no longer defines your direction. In the dark world of spiritual warfare, shadow names are the enemy's most elegant weapon, not because they control you, but because you believe them before you even notice them. But every architecture can be dismantled, every blueprint can be burned. Every false identity can crumble the moment you recognize it was never mine. The War of Chapter 3 is not about escape, it's about recognition. Because the moment you recognize the shadow name, you stop living inside it. And the enemy loses the one weapon he hoped you would never uncover. There is a moment in every person's life when the shadow name becomes more than a whisper. It becomes a presence. Not loud, not violent, not dramatic, just constant, predictable, familiar in the worst possible way. It does not chase you. It walks beside you, quietly, patiently, like it knows exactly where you're going and doesn't mind waiting. Every shadow name develops its own personality, its own rhythm, its own preferred environment. Some linger in silence. Some flare up when you are alone. Others hide until you are under pressure. But all of them share one thing. They follow patterns. They follow cycles. They follow you. And this is how they stay alive. A shadow name never screams for attention. It doesn't have to. It waits for the moment when your mind is unguarded, when you are tired, discouraged, disappointed, or alone long enough for old echoes to feel like truth again. And when that moment comes, it steps forward, not as a new thought, but as a familiar one, not as an attack, but as a confirmation. It whispers the very sentence you have been afraid was true all along. That is how it tightens its grip, not by overpowering you, but by agreeing with the part of you that was already hurting. A shadow name follows you because it knows that the right echo, spoken at the right moment, is enough to reroute your whole identity. Not by force, by familiarity. Every shadow name has a cycle, a rhythm, a loop, and most people spend years walking through the same emotional hallway without ever realizing they are being directed by something they didn't name. The cycle often begins with a trigger, an event that scratches an old wound, a rejection, a failure, a disappointment, a moment of loneliness, a memory you didn't mean to revisit. And once the wound opens, the shadow name steps into the doorway like it's been waiting there the whole time. You feel it before you hear it. A heaviness, a pattern returning, a familiar tilt of the heart that makes you think, here we go again. You think it's just life. You think it's just you, but it isn't. It's the architecture of the shadow name reactivating itself, rebuilding the same emotional echo that kept you trapped before. And every time the cycle completes, the shadow name grows stronger. Not because it gains power, but because you lose clarity. That is how the enemy works. Not with chains, but with repetition. Every shadow name leaves a trail. Not physical, but emotional. A footprint so consistent that if you pay attention, you can trace it back to its source. Some leave a coldness in your chest. Some leave pressure behind your ribs. Others generate a sinking, heavy silence that feels like the air itself has weight. These sensations are not random. They are markers, identifiers, signals that something familiar is drawing near. A shadow name presses against you the same way every time. Subtle, but unmistakable once you learn to recognize it. It doesn't reveal itself through language at first. It reveals itself through atmosphere, through the way your thoughts dim, through the way your confidence weakens, through the way the world suddenly feels just a little darker than it did a moment ago. This is its footprint, its signature, its presence. The shadow doesn't follow your footsteps, it follows your wounds. The greatest danger of a shadow name is not that it follows you, but that it tries to define you. It tries to become your default identity, the reflex you return to even when your life should be moving forward. It will linger at every doorway of possibility. It will kneel beside every dream. It will stand at the edge of every breakthrough and whisper, "This isn't who you are." And if you let that whisper shape your direction long enough, you will begin to live a life that matches the shadow instead of your calling. This is the war most people never see, the war for definition. Not the fight over what you believe, but the deeper fight over who you believe you are allowed to become. Shadow names don't just attack your identity. They rewrite the boundaries of your future. They convince you that certain doors are too high, certain dreams are too big, certain relationships are too good, certain battles are impossible. Not because they are, but because your identity was tampered with. This is the war behind the war. But there comes a moment in every spiritual journey when the shadow name realizes you are starting to notice it. And that is when it reacts. Sometimes with silence, sometimes with pressure, sometimes with a sudden surge of old memories that feel newly alive. Not because it gained strength, but because you gained awareness. Because the moment you see it, the moment you call it out, the moment you stop accepting it, its cycle begins to break. Shadow names thrive in the unseen. They suffocate in the light. And when one finally realizes that you are waking up to its presence, it does not follow you with confidence anymore. It follows you with fear. Because the moment you know its pattern, its footprint, its voice, its rhythm, you are one step away from replacing it with the name you were always meant to carry. And that is the beginning of the end. There is a moment after the shadow name breaks where everything feels strangely quiet. People describe it like standing in the aftermath of a storm. Air still vibrating, ground soaked, the sky trying to remember how to be calm again. It is the moment when the false identity finally slips away. But the true one has not yet fully returned. This space between identities is fragile, a crossroads, a rebuilding zone. Because a person who has lived under a shadow name for years does not simply wake up knowing who they are. They have to rediscover it, piece by piece, memory by memory, breath by breath. And this is where the real miracle begins. Your true name, the identity God spoke over you long before anyone labeled you, never disappeared. It was buried, not erased. Demons cannot erase what God created. They can only bury it beneath fear, trauma, repetition, and shame. Like dirt piled over something sacred. But once the shadow name breaks, the buried identity begins to stir. It rises like something waking from deep underwater. Slow at first, then stronger, reclaiming territory that was stolen. And the enemy knows this. That is why after the shadow name shatters, the spiritual attacks often shift. Not to dominate you, but to distract you. To keep you from hearing the voice calling your real name back to life. Because restoration is not a flash of light, it is a returning, a remembering, a becoming. Imagine a person lifting their head after years of walking with it lowered. Their posture changes, their tone changes, even their eyes begin to clear. This is not confidence. It is identity re-emerging. Your real name begins with a whisper, the quiet sense that you were meant for more than the role the shadow name forced you to play. Then it grows, becoming a pull, a direction, a gravitational force drawing you back to the person you were designed to be. And it is in this stage that many people feel both excitement and fear. Excitement because they feel something new rising. Fear because they do not know who they are without the lie. That fear is normal. It is the last echo of the shadow name. But it cannot stop what comes next. And that identity is not built by darkness. It is built by truth. It grows through moments of clarity. Moments when you catch yourself responding differently, choosing differently, feeling differently. It grows through new boundaries, new desires, new strength you didn't know you had. It grows through the sudden understanding that you do not need to earn your worth. You simply need to reclaim it. Your true name is not a title. It is a posture, a nature, a design. When God speaks identity, He doesn't describe what you are. He describes what you were always meant to reveal. And as that identity rises, demons lose their influence, not because you are fighting harder, but because you are becoming someone they cannot speak to. Your true name is a frequency they cannot mimic. And when it returns, the spiritual chains that once held you do not simply loosen, they dissolve. Because the contract written over you was tied to the shadow name, not the real one. This is why deliverance is not just about casting out darkness. It is about restoring the person that darkness tried to erase. And when someone finally steps fully into their true identity, when the buried parts of them rise up, align, and breathe freely again, you can sense it. There is a weight to them, a clarity, a quiet authority that does not need to shout, because they finally know who they are. And demons cannot bind someone who knows their name. This is the restoration, not a moment, but a transformation, the slow, powerful unveiling of the self that was waiting beneath every lie. And once a person stands in that identity, they never walk the same again. You've just stepped into one of the deepest layers of this war, a layer most people never see. And even fewer survive unchanged. If you made it to this point, thank you. Not just for watching, but for daring to face the part of yourself the enemy hoped you would ignore forever. Shadow names are only defeated when the light touches them. And whether you realize it or not, you brought light with you into this chapter. But this journey is not over. Identity is only the beginning. There are deeper structures, older strategies, and realms of influence the enemy uses that we haven't uncovered yet. So let me ask you something important. After everything we explored today, what truth about yourself feels different now? Your answer might become the key for someone else fighting the same invisible battle. If you're ready for the next step, if you want episode 11, stay close. Because what comes next will expose a tactic far more dangerous than shadow names. A tactic the enemy uses long before you ever hear its whisper. And once you understand it, you will never see yourself or the war over you the same way again. This is not the end. This is the threshold. And I'll meet you on the other side.